If God is real, why must he be perfect? In fact, I think there's good reason to believe that if God does exist, that he's not perfect. I think that it shows in the Bible over and over and over again that maybe God just doesn't know what he's doing, but is playing as if he does. And if this is a being that is desperate for our devotion, wants our love, why is it a ludicrous idea to think that he wouldn't lie for it and he wouldn't play like he's something else that he's not? You know, if he knows that that's what's going to bring believers to him and make people love him, and it's obvious whether it's the truth or not. um, Obviously it's working. There's Christians for thousands of years now, and many people love God, and even if they're different denominations, a lot of people have faith that he exists and that he loves them. I, so why wouldn't he tell the lie to make people love him? Because if he is all-knowing and unchanging and all-powerful, these things don't seem to line up. To be unchanging means that you don't change. You don't change your mind down the line. And it seems that God does that quite often. You know, you take the story of Genesis that most people don't believe in, even believers themselves. Um, you know, we at least have enough scientific literacy to understand that these things aren't a literal interpretation of events, but he creates the world, he creates Adam and Eve, he sticks the tree of the knowledge of good and evil right in the middle, and programs Adam and Eve to be able to deny him, to be able to uh, not only deny him, but to put the tree within reach, to say, hey, you can access this. That seems to be a mistake. That seems to be something that a neglectful parent would do, accidentally leave out the food that their child is allergic to. And then he's upset when they make their first mistake against him. He's so upset that he casts them out of the Garden of Eden. And then he goes on to kill everyone in the world except for one family because he doesn't like the way that his creation is turning out. And people will say, well, this is free will at play. Humans have free will. They can either choose to love him or not. But if he knows these things are going to happen, then he could have made it some other way. And I know theists get sick to death of hearing about that. Well, if God is all powerful and all knowing, why couldn't he have just done things differently? But it's a legitimate question, I think. And it's a question that hasn't been answered, except to say that he has mysterious ways, or to try to put some definition on his purpose, which I think people have failed to do thus far. You know, another example is in the book of Job. Satan comes strolling through heaven. He just comes walking in, and God basically says, what are you doing here? That seems strange that an all-knowing God would be surprised to find his worst enemy strolling in his room. Uh, Maybe he already knew that Satan was coming, but the people who know that someone's coming, usually they will say something like, oh, you're here, or I was expecting you, not asking, hey, what are you doing here, you know? But if he's unchanging and all-knowing, this means that the future is set. It's set in stone. He has set his own future, which does limit his powers. It limits his decision-making abilities because it must be done a certain way. But if he can change his mind, then he's not unchanging and he's not perfect, which would be fine, I think, and it would make a lot more sense because we seem to see God changing his mind quite a bit throughout the stories. So if he's limited in power, to change the future because he set the future, then he's also not all powerful. These things, they contradict each other. It doesn't make sense for all of it to exist at once, except to say that God is mysterious and we're just ants to him, and how could we possibly know how any of this works or what his powers are or anything like that? Well, if that's the case, let's stop acting like we do. Let's just say this doesn't make any sense. Let's just admit that. Let's admit none of this makes any sense, that this is a ridiculous character. This is a ridiculous story. And there's no evidence to show that he's actually perfect. Because if he's the king, if he's the ruler of everything, why everything that he does can just be written off as he meant to do that? You know, if you're the king of a land and you're sitting in your throne room and you've got all these people in your court and you do something that you didn't mean to do. Let's say you did something extremely embarrassing. You bent over and your pants split and exposed your bottom to everyone in the court. The king gets up, he stands up and he says, I meant to do that. I meant to do that. Who's going to deny that the king meant to do that? Even if you have your doubts, who's going to deny the king? In fact, people might start doing that regularly now, in solidarity with the king. Oh, the king meant to split his pants, so now we all wear our pants split open at the bottom. I don't see why this scenario could be so different to a divine being. A divine being, we place the characteristics on ourselves. We say what a divine being must be. We say what God must be. And if we say he's perfect, then he must be perfect. But what if he's not? What if he's not perfect? What if he endorsed slavery at one time and then changed his mind, as we all did? He changed his morals down the line. And he said, you know what, that stuff's actually not good anymore. I thought it was good, it's fine, but it's not fine. Genocide, you know, I commanded it once, but, you know, I meant to do that. I needed to do that at that time, but now don't do that. Now it's bad. Who can deny if this is a mistake, if these were mistakes, and he's not perfect, but he claims to be perfect, who's going to deny him? Maybe the truth is he's not as perfect as people think.